My wife's funeral was at 11 a.m. I was dressed, tie straight, shoes polished, standing at our front door holding her photograph for the service when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Don't go to your wife's funeral. Better stop by your brother's house. He's not alone. I stared at it for a long time. My name is Thomas Grant, 44 years old. Civil engineer from Denver, Colorado. Laura had been gone 9 days. Car accident on a Tuesday evening. Wet roads, highway overpass. A phone call I'd received at 9:47 p.m. that divided my entire life into before and after. 9 days of arrangements and condolences and casseroles left on the porch by neighbors who didn't know what else to do. 9 days of my brother Daniel showing up every morning without being asked, making coffee, handling calls, sitting beside me in silence when silence was all I could manage. Daniel. My younger brother. The person I'd trusted most in this world after Laura. I typed back, "Who is this?" No response. I stood in that doorway for a full minute. Outside my car waited. Across town, a cemetery. A pastor. 50 people who'd loved my wife gathering to say goodbye. And somewhere across the city, my brother's house. Every rational thought said ignore it. Cruel prank. Grief makes people targets. Don't let some anonymous coward steal the last morning you have to say goodbye to your wife. But something quieter underneath wouldn't let me move toward the car. Something that recognized, without fully understanding why, that the message hadn't felt random. It had felt specific. I put Laura's photograph in my breast pocket and drove to my brother's house. Daniel lived 12 minutes from my house. I knew every turn without thinking, had driven this route 1,000 times. Sunday dinners. Football Sundays. The night his daughter was born when I'd broken every speed limit getting there. Familiar streets. Familiar neighborhood. The blue house on the corner with the basketball hoop he'd installed 4 years ago and used maybe twice. Everything looked completely normal pulling up. His car in the driveway. Curtains drawn, but he always kept them drawn in the morning. No strange vehicles parked outside. Nothing that screamed anything was wrong. I almost turned around. Almost convinced myself the message was exactly what logic had been telling me. A cruel anonymous prank targeting a grieving man on the worst morning of his life. Then I noticed Laura's car. Parked on the side street running adjacent to Daniel's house. Half hidden behind a neighbor's SUV. The white Accord I'd been driving to the mechanic for 6 years, that had a crack in the rear left taillight we'd never gotten around to fixing. The same car that had gone off an overpass 9 days ago. The same car that was currently sitting in a police impound lot across the city. I'd received the retrieval paperwork just yesterday. I pulled over slowly. Sat completely still. Stared at that Accord for 30 seconds making absolutely certain I wasn't losing my mind. That grief hadn't finally cracked something fundamental. Counting the details one by one. White Accord. Cracked taillight. Laura's university parking sticker on the rear windshield. Identical. In every way. My hands were shaking when I pulled out my key and walked to Daniel's front door. The key slid in clean. I stood on that doorstep for 3 full seconds with my hand on the knob, the photograph of Laura pressed against my chest, funeral tie straight, shoes polished for a goodbye I hadn't yet given, and pushed the door open. The house was quiet. Not empty quiet. Occupied quiet. The specific stillness of people who've stopped moving because they heard something. I stepped inside. Living room, normal. Kitchen, 2 coffee cups on the counter. Both used. Both recent. A woman's coat draped over the back of a chair that didn't belong to Daniel's ex-wife because Daniel's ex-wife had moved to Seattle 3 years ago and I knew every piece of clothing she owned. I knew this coat. Bought it myself. Christmas 2 years ago. Dark green wool, specific brass buttons. A small repair on the left cuff from where it had caught a car door. Laura's coat. My dead wife's coat was hanging over my brother's kitchen chair. I didn't call out. Didn't move. Just stood in that kitchen with my hand resting on the coat fabric, warm, recently worn, and waited for my breathing to steady into something functional. Took a while. Footsteps upstairs. One set. Careful. Someone who'd heard the front door and was now deciding what to do about it. Then Daniel's voice from the top of the staircase. Quiet. Controlled. Doing his best to sound casual and landing nowhere near it. Tom? Why aren't you at the... He appeared at the top of the stairs. Behind him, half a step back, partially in shadow, wearing clothes I'd last seen folded in our bedroom drawer. Laura looked down at me. Alive. The human brain does something strange in moments of absolute impossibility. It doesn't scream. Doesn't collapse. It just stops. Like a computer hitting a command it wasn't built to process. I stood at the bottom of that staircase staring at my wife, my dead wife, and felt nothing for approximately 4 seconds. Then everything hit simultaneously. Tom, Daniel stepped forward, hand raised, voice carefully measured. Just, let me explain before you. Laura. My voice came out completely flat. She flinched. Actually flinched. Like the sound of her own name from my mouth was something she hadn't prepared for. She looked different, hair shorter, darker, different clothes, the specific appearance of someone in the middle of becoming someone else. How? That's all I could produce? How? Daniel was talking. Words were coming out of his mouth in careful, organized sentences, and I couldn't process a single one because I was watching Laura, watching my wife, slowly descend 3 steps and stop. Keeping distance between us. Calculating distance. The way you calculate distance from something unpredictable. She was afraid of me. My dead wife was afraid of me. The accident, I finally managed. Wasn't an accident, Daniel said quietly. The room tilted. We staged it, Laura said. First words she'd spoken. Voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Tom, I'm sorry, I know that means nothing right now, but you staged your own death. She nodded. And the funeral. My voice was dangerously quiet now. There are 50 people at your funeral right now. Your mother is at your funeral right now. Something crossed her face. Not guilt exactly. Something more complicated and somehow worse. I know, she whispered. I sat down. Not dramatically. My legs just made a decision my brain hadn't approved yet, and I found myself in Daniel's kitchen chair, Laura's coat still warm beneath my hands, staring at the 2 coffee cups on the counter while my wife and my brother stood in the doorway waiting for me to do something. Start talking, I said. Everything. Daniel sat across from me. Laura stayed standing, near the door, I noticed, near the exit. Still calculating. It took 40 minutes. The short version, the version my brain could absorb in that kitchen on that morning, was this. Laura had been skimming money from the architecture firm where she worked. Small amounts initially, then larger. Covering client account shortfalls, redirecting invoices, the kind of financial manipulation that starts as temporary and becomes permanent before you fully understand what you've built. 18 months of it. Approximately $340,000 total. The firm had discovered it 3 weeks before the accident. A forensic audit. Quiet. Thorough. Her partners had given her 2 choices. Criminal charges or full restitution immediately. She had neither the money nor the time. So she built a third option. Disappear. Daniel knew, I said. Not a question. I found out 2 weeks ago, he said. She came to me. I didn't know what to do, I swear. You helped her fake her own death. Silence. You sat beside me for 9 days, I said slowly. Made coffee. Answered my phone. Watched me fall apart. I looked at my brother, this person I'd trusted without condition for 44 years. And the entire time she was here. Daniel looked at the table. That was answer enough. I stood up. Picked up my phone. Walked to the kitchen window facing the backyard, Daniel's garden, the apple tree we'd climbed as kids, the fence I'd helped him build the summer after our father passed. Familiar things. Things I'd trusted the way you trust gravity. Laura spoke first. Tom, I need you to understand, I had no choice. They were going to prosecute. My career, everything we had, the house, it would have all. Stop. I didn't turn around. You're about to explain to me why faking your death was reasonable. I need you to understand that no version of that explanation exists. Silence. The insurance policy, I said. Another silence. Different quality. Heavier. Laura and I had taken out life insurance policies 4 years ago. Mutual. Standard. $800,000 each. I'd never thought about it since the day we signed. It was one of those responsible adult decisions you make and file away and forget. I turned around slowly. You were going to let me collect $800,000. The words came out completely flat. That was the plan. I collect the insurance. You disappear with whatever you'd already hidden away. And Daniel, I looked at my brother. What was your cut? Tom, it wasn't like. What was your cut? Daniel. He closed his eyes. She was going to send money once she was settled. Help me pay off the house. His voice had gone very small. I know how that sounds. It sounds like insurance fraud, I said. On top of everything else. I looked at Laura one final time. This stranger wearing my wife's face. Then I picked up my phone and called the one number I should have called the moment I'd walked through that door. Detective Morrison answered on the second ring. I need you to send someone to my brother's address, I said. I found my wife. Laura ran. Not immediately, There was a frozen moment after I said those words where nobody moved, nobody breathed, the three of us suspended in Daniel's kitchen like a photograph nobody wanted taken. Then something shifted in her eyes, pure survival instinct overriding everything else, and she moved toward the back door fast. Daniel caught her. I didn't expect that. He stepped sideways, blocked the doorway, put both hands on her shoulders and held firm. Laura struggled, twisting hard, and Daniel held on with the expression of a man making a decision he should have made 9 days ago. Enough, he said quietly. It's enough, Laura. She stopped struggling, crumpled slightly, like something structural had given way. Detective Morrison arrived in 11 minutes with 2 patrol cars. I watched from Daniel's living room window as they came up the front path, unhurried, professional, the specific energy of people who'd seen every version of human desperation and stopped being surprised by any of it. Morrison was mid-50s. Sharp eyes. He'd handled Laura's accident case, had called me personally 3 times during the investigation with updates, condolences, the careful language of someone delivering irreversible news. He walked in and looked at Laura for a long moment. Then at me. Mr. Grant. His voice was carefully neutral. I owe you an apology. We closed the accident investigation 4 days ago. I know, I said. The vehicle that went off the overpass was rigged, I said. Remotely triggered. She'll tell you everything. I looked at Laura. Won't you? She was sitting at Daniel's kitchen table now, coat still draped over the chair beside her, coffee cup still on the counter, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her look in 14 years of marriage. She nodded once and started talking. The funeral continued without us. 50 people gathered at Riverside Cemetery at 11 a.m. to say goodbye to a woman who was simultaneously sitting in a Denver police precinct giving a full confession. Laura's mother called me 4 times during the processing. I let every call go to voicemail, not out of cruelty but because there are conversations that deserve more than a parking lot outside a police station. Some conversations need a chair and a very long time. Laura confessed to everything. The firm embezzlement. The staged accident. She'd hired a specialist through connections I never knew she had, someone who'd rigged the Accord steering remotely and timed the overpass impact to minimize investigation complexity. The insurance fraud plan. She gave them everything, every name, every account, every detail, with the specific exhausted thoroughness of someone who'd been carrying something too heavy for too long and had finally, gratefully put it down. Daniel pled guilty to accessory charges. Received 18 months probation, community service, the permanent restructuring of everything between us that I still haven't fully processed 2 years later. We don't talk much now. Maybe someday. Laura received 6 years. The firm recovered $280,000 of the $340,000 through asset seizure. Her specialist, the man who'd rigged the car, received 11 years and gave up 3 additional clients in exchange. Apparently staged death was a more established industry than any reasonable person would want to know. I went back to the cemetery the evening after her arrest. Stood beside the funeral setup they were still dismantling, folding chairs, flower arrangements, a program with Laura's photograph I found on the ground near the entrance. I stood there for a long time. Not grieving exactly. Grieving something, but not the thing I'd come there originally to grieve. Grieving the version of her I'd loved. The version that may have been partially real once. Before the money, before the fear, before the calculation took over everything else. That version deserved the funeral. The woman I'd found on Daniel's staircase. She'd buried herself long before I got that message.